VA. I am your host, Vania from the Billiards Canvas, and as you can see, I am not on Zoom right now. Thank you for coming back to our second episode of Billiards VMSOA magazine with our special October audition. Today we are showing some love to some amazing black men leading the way both in the classroom and in the lecturing halls. Let's get into it. We have the absolute pleasure of sitting with the one and only Nile Price. He's an absolutely remarkable filmmaker. He holds his Bachelor of Science in Mass Comm from Norfolk State University and his Master's in Filmmaking from NYU. His beautiful bodies of work include Bitter Earth, Home Again, and his first animated short film, Wander. His work has landed him in renowned film festivals such as Toronto Black Film Festival, Africana Film Festival, Martha's Vineyard Film Festival, and Virginia Film Festival, where he won the Programmers Award for Best Short Film. He's a previous fellow of the VMFA Museum and the Mercy Bloom Fellowship and is now an adjunct professor at VCU. Without further ado, Nile Price, everybody.
Thank you, happy to be here.
So who is Nile Price?
You know, I think I'm a humanist at the end of the day, a storyteller, obsessive compulsive of film, really.
What is a humanist?
Someone that puts humanity first, really. I don't think there's any other definition. One of my favorite quotes that I've lived by since I was a little boy was, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. JFK's inaugural speech, and I often like to substitute country with the word humanity. Ask not what humanity can do for you, ask what you can do for humanity. And in a nutshell, that's what a humanist is.
Okay, so already you sound very particularly inspired, so that leads me into my first question. What inspired you to pursue a career in filmmaking, of all things?
Nothing originally. Film found me. Originally, I wanted to be a lawyer. I was going to go to law school. I had a whole team.
Nile, a lawyer?
Yeah, that was the goal. I wanted to get into politics. JFK was a huge hero of mine since I was 6 years old. So, and I knew for me, I wanted to practice law, get into the Senate, and eventually be the first black president. But a young man named Barack Obama.
Snatch that right on up.
Yeah. So, but no, when I was in high school, I needed elective credit to graduate. Took photography class. Teacher thought I was pretty good, asked if I could come do his production class the next semester. Signed up for that. That was basically us doing the morning announcements live every day, and that was like my first entryway into the world of media, the world of film. And I remember, after school closed, my high school's on the other side of town, so after school was finished for the day, I'd go around the corner to grab a bite from Cookout, but I'd stuff paper towels in the school doors so I could come back and let myself in, and I would stay in that studio for 3 hours at a time just to teach myself how to edit. And that was where I started getting more familiar with the craft of the medium, what we're doing with these images, what we're doing with these frames, how they're juxtapositioning with each other. And then, I remember watching East of Eden from Elia Kazan, 1955. That's my favorite film of all time. It had such a hold on me. Yeah, after that, it was a wrap.
Tell me more about being from Richmond, VA, and how that influenced your perspective as a filmmaker.
I think it's given me a very unique perspective. Not many filmmakers really showcase life from Virginia or the South specifically. Yes, there are films out there like that, but we can sometimes get kind of caricatures of what that looks like. But one of the things I love about Virginia is there's this poetic kind of feel about it. Also, it's the start of our country. It's I tell people all the time, the music here, your favorite artist's favorite artist had their music produced by our musical talent from here. The world of sports got innovated and pushed to another realm from the athletes that we produce. So to that history and that lineage, that's a lot of the things that I explore with my work. Time, how time intersects with lineage and the poetry of the history that we're telling, and just trying to paint a new picture. And you'd be surprised, there's different films here that you wouldn't even know. People usually come here to shoot historical epics like Lincoln, Spielberg shot it right there at the governor's mansion. Some in Petersburg. Malick shot The New World, story of Jamestown's origination. He shot that here. And so now you're starting to see a pattern of what is done here. Harriet was shot literally at 3 Lakes Park, right across the street from where I went to middle school. So yeah, I think Virginia just has this texture, this poetic texture of the fabric of our country and the fabric of our history as Black folk that I'm attracted to. Yeah.
What do you think influences your particular interest in humanity, in life, in telling stories the way it is? Because I would almost say, I feel like a lot of what I think sometimes I see what a lot of people get into filmmaking and things are usually for the more commercial reasons. So what influences your particular reasons behind it?
I feel it's important for me because that's the only thing really, when it comes down to it, that I know. It's the only thing I'm good at. So I don't know what else to do. I often think about being a window dresser maybe, or going back to being a janitor, but it's the only thing I know. I mean, I grew up very ill. I was a very sick kid growing up, so all I had was movies, and I looked to movies. I mean, to experience, like to learn about different things in life that I wasn't experiencing. It served as a nice escapism for me, and I think that's why it's so important for me, because it was that one present friend that was always there, no matter what was going on. So I think into that, in a weird regard, I'm indebted to film, and that is what inspires me. Not the debt of a relationship or the debt of a friendship, but a gratefulness in the aspect of thank you for always being there.
But I feel like you could still, I know, you made the clarification, but I feel like you could still say that you're like pretty much married to film at this point. Like you definitely put a ring on it.
Yeah.
You locked in. Well, on the note of your relationship with filmmaking, it sounds like it taught you a lot of lessons. Tell me more about that.
There are things that we see in film that, that's the art imitates life imitates art. And so when you can't understand something in the real world, sometimes it might help you to understand it in film. And if there is something that is completely outside of your realm of understanding, and you might watch a film and it's not working the best way possible, you can turn to reality and figure out how you can build a better way forward in that regard.
So when it came to, you said that your inspiration was this activity you were doing when you were in your elementary years, as far as doing the school announcements live daily. That was your introduction to editing in particular. Filmmaking in high school. Oh, I don't know where I got elementary years from. When did you, because one could easily write that off as a very specific particular interest in editing, where did the connection to filmmaking happen? Like, this love you had for telling stories and filmmaking to this very practical thing you were doing in high school?
So I got an opportunity to, I was the nerd that always had a camera, and I got the opportunity to make, what do they call it, the baccalaureate? I think I'm pronouncing that right. But basically there's a baccalaureate ceremony for the seniors. It's a very intimate space. It's like a reception for all the seniors a couple days before graduation. And I was asked by the school to make a baccalaureate video. And one of my classmates, I remember, called me. I didn't get to make the ceremony, but one of my classmates called me a couple days later, and they were like, yeah, my mom has sat here and watched it 5 times in a row, and she just cries. And I think there was something endearing about receiving a phone call from a classmate regarding the emotional effect that a simple, at the time that I was thinking of, a simple video encapsulating my time at the high school and my time with these students, and how I interpreted our time together as seniors be on display. And then next thing you know, a couple more phone calls started pouring in from classmates of, oh, this moved me so much. And I got to see the power in what the camera held, the power in what a frame holds, and the emotions that a single frame or a story as a whole can elicit in an audience member. And I think from there, I just kind of worked at it And it wasn't like, again, it's something that found me, and I was just kind of always. It's like a puppy in the backyard chasing a butterfly. Like you're just enamored by it. Like, oh, it's just this butterfly floating, and you're just kind of chasing this butterfly.
That's funny because that's not where I thought that sentence was going.
Yeah,
so just doing shit.
Yeah, essentially, like you're just doing it, and I mean, based on my background, that's the only thing I know. So
I feel like it starts that way for so many artists.
Yeah,
because everybody tells you that that's not a real career, that nobody really gets that opportunity, and even more so. I mean, down to all the things that we listed, which I do, even in real life, think is super cool, because all the people who I've met out here that want to be filmmakers, their dream is NYU film, like NYU Masters in Film. They want to be a part of that program, and you did it. How much of this did you ever see happening, if at all the way up until you becoming a educator?
I was just the loner with the camera, always filming. You ever see those movies where it might be a POV movie or whatever like that, but there's this kind of kid who's kind of off to the side a little bit. He's in the mix of things, but you might hear somebody on the screen say, "Why do you always have this camera around?" That was always me, and that was it. And then I think there was a time where, yes, I knew, like when I started at Norfolk State, I wanted to be a filmmaker. There was no film program, but I knew that's what I wanted, and that's what I aimed for. I was very run down by the remedial classes they have everyone take. I was not interested in science. I was not interested in math or these different things. I wanted to learn how to make movies, but I never saw myself going to a film school because I didn't think I'm a black kid from Richmond. I couldn't afford that, and that's beyond me. And then my brother happened to remind me. He's like, "Hey, how many black filmmakers do you know had great long careers or whatever without film school?" And I had to sit there and think about it, because traditionally the route I was going to try and go was shooting music videos.
How was that?
Interesting. Learned a lot. Would never go back and do it again. But I was looking at people like F. Gary Gray, who shot a bunch of music videos. Happened to shoot "Yesterday Was a Good Day" for Ice Cube. Won an MTV award for best music video that year. Fast forward a couple years later, Ice Cube writes Friday, taps F. Gary Gray to direct it, and now he's making movies with Fast and Furious. He's doing Set It Off, all these different things, right? And I was like, oh, if I just get with the music video, if I just get with a nice artist, I can have the same career. And it was just, it's not the same world,
Yeah.
It's not the same world. So no, and originally just committing to it gave me the confidence to do it, and then going along the way, I had to build my own film program at Norfolk State. So
yeah,
thank God, my senior year, all I had was elective credits. So I called up the English department and I said, "Hey, I want to be a filmmaker. I see you have a creative writing class. Can I take it?" "Sure." Called the fine arts department to a gentleman named Sam Hughes, who is my mentor now, a great friend of mine. He had a studio lighting class and a photography 1 and 2 class. Took all of those. We would sit there in class for 2.5 hours, and I'd sit in his office for another 2 hours just shooting the breeze, And then being a mass comm student, our building is next to the theater department, so I took my work study with the theater department simply because I wanted to be a fly on the wall and learn from actors. That's all I wanted. I wanted to see what they do. What's your process? How does this work? And then I met a gentleman named Jaquan Jones, and we both kind of had the same. We both had the same desire. We both had the same work ethic. We both had the same drive, and that was the first time.
That passion, that ambition.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first time I met somebody that could match that.
It's hard to find in that age range at that time.
And it's crucial. It's crucial in your development. Like if it's not there, I've seen it. It's easy to fall by the wayside and just think your dream is so far out of reach. And so we did a lot. And I remember when I said, "Hey, by any chance, can you swim?" And he says to me, "I just learned, actually." I said, "That's perfect. You're a guppy. Do you want to be in my short film?" And he said, "Oh, sure, whatever." And I showed him some of my storyboards and what the script was. He was down for it. Long story short, that was my first short film. And that short film led me to NYU, which I wasn't about to apply to. NYU was the #1 school I wanted to go to. Why? Because I love actors, love working with actors. One of my favorite directors is known as the actor's director, BIlliards. And I figured, what's the best place to do that? New York. That's a mecca for actors. You got Broadway there. You got all these wonderful acting programs. And I took them off my list because randomly I happened to go through the filmography of Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, Ang Lee, Oliver Stone, and I said, there's no way I'm getting into this school. And I just kind of got into my own head. And my advisor at the time, she was like, no, I'm gonna be very upset if you don't apply. You belong there. And so I put them back on my list, and they were the first school to accept me. All those experiences from high school, from the music video world, of me trying to figure it out that way, and even making my own film program, all of this culminated in my first years at NYU, and I realized, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing. Like, this is the process. Okay, this is the first time I'm seeing equipment like this for sure. So then my thinking shifted. I was only there for the equipment, essentially. And I was meeting filmmakers from all around the world. But, getting those reps in, and what is the saying? There's a saying of the 10,000 hours. You put in all these hours, and then eventually it'll pay off. Or you'll hear a traditional professional actor say, oh, I'm not really an actor until I've done it for 25 years. And I'm not saying I have any of that experience just yet, but at the time there was this moment of, okay, all of this work it wasn't for naught, it all worked up for the greater good to this moment.
It's so funny because even before you got to the master's degree part of that story, it sounded like you had lived like a whole lifetime. Like, that sounded like a whole that was a whole series in and of itself that just played out in my mind. So with all that experience, what are the most important lessons that you impart on your students at VCU now that you've become an educator?
Presence. I think an artist has to have an inordinate amount of presence. You can't function without it. And what I mean by that is, you have to be aware of and present of your life situation. You have to be present and aware of the neighbors to your left and to your right. In the world at large, some of the best filmmakers that I love the most, some of the best film eras that I love the most, they had a superpower in reading the times. And when I say reading the times, I don't just literally mean current events in the news or what's happening in the world, but literally, like, what is exactly happening to this person right in front of you? Like, are you able to step outside of yourself and give the world around you undivided attention and make the world around you feel very important? And only when you're doing that is when you're kind of placed in it's a weird thing to say, but like you're placed in the groove of the ecosystem or the synthetic embryos of the world around you. And I think once you're that present, it works. You gotta step outside your gut, breathe through your mind, and everything just kind of, you'll see it, you'll feel it. You're not just see it, but you'll feel it here. And that's one of the things in both my directing course and my intro to film course is that I stress is presence, stillness. You got to be still enough to allow what you're seeing in front of you to pass through you. And then you can breathe it in, and you can breathe it out, and you're there, the stasis.
And it's so much easier said than done.
You know it.
It is so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
So you brought up the bond you formed with Jaquan, and I know that you directed his short film BIlliards at one point. Tell me about that process.
It was a wonderful process. It was an unexpected endeavor that came too soon, I think, too early. That just kind of came out of nowhere. And what I mean by that is I've always wanted to work with set pieces, moving pieces. And this required us to build a set. It takes place in a pool hall, so we didn't have the money to secure a pool hall, so how else are you going to do it? And we literally went to the lumber store, we bought a bunch of wood, built walls, and we put on some wallpaper.
Who built the walls?
Jaquan and I, as well as a craftsman from the theater company, Brenda.
Just you two?
Brenda Lindsay. Yeah. So we all chipped in and we put these walls together, and I think we had about 3 we worked with. We had to pull a pool table down there. I ordered some lights to we had to literally recreate the space. And that was it was a skeleton crew, so it wasn't, some of the actors even helped out, which was very nice. So we worked out in that manner and did it that way. And I'm very grateful for that process, to be able to lean on collaborators in that manner. And then also, he wrote the script. So that was my first time working with someone, working on something that I didn't write myself. And we're interpreters. I think a great director is just simply an interpreter. We interpret what the source material is, and we try to make it our own. And in that form, it's a very violent act that's happening. But that's the act of that's some of the act of collaboration. I think collaboration is a very level-headed medium. I don't expect you to always agree with what I'm going to do. I hope that you have some disagreements. Why? Because conflict that's where great creation comes from, is conflict. It has to be two different things trying to do something, and then we find a way forward. And it was a nice time to be able to do that with Japan, and it's a beautiful world that he's creating. I tell him all the time, I'm enamored by it. Just coming out of the MFA space myself, having to that longing to be in we're the Ivy League schools that really put black folks diversity really are putting diversity first. So that was lovely.
Would you ever want to run that back?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hope he thinks about me down the road, and I can come in and do a directed episode or two. I have some ideas. I have a lot of ideas. So yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, because you technically already answered my next question about the role collaboration plays in your work. But another question I wanted to ask you about collaboration is your relationship with it, because I think all of us, all artists, wrestle that at some point. What it's like to have to collaborate, because especially when it comes to storytelling, and really all art forms are forms of storytelling, but in our particular medium, it's never about you, and you have to both hold your own and develop your own. I know on the actor side, to try to keep it more concise.
Yeah.
On the actor side, right, we have to develop our own understanding of the story and then bring it into the room, just to have it completely disrupted by everybody else's interpretation of the story, by everybody else's rendition of the story. So what was it like starting to learn that balance of collaboration, how to do it effectively, how to get comfortable doing it, how to get comfortable picking up somebody else's work and letting somebody else pick up your work?
I mentioned earlier I'm an obsessive compulsive. And like literally for me, for example, right, when I'm writing, and I'm just talk from what I'm writing, right? If I'm writing something that I plan to do, I will start from page 1 every morning. Say I'm on page 60. I'm gonna start from page 1 in the morning. I'll make my edits, I'll make my tweaks, whatever like that. And then by the time I get to page 60, I'm finishing where I left off. And then before I go to bed, I will read the entire script again from where I stopped. Let's say I made it up to page 65. I will start from page 1 and read it all the way to page 65. Without editing anything. I just need to see it. And if I start to feel things that I want to change, because now Nile from 9 o'clock that morning is not the same Nile at 10:30 at night reading it again. So now there are two different hats that are looking at the source material. And I think it's the same thing with collaboration, because at the end of the day, we're trying to build a space of trust. You want to build a space of trust, but I'm somebody that I don't trust people very easily, but when I do trust you, and like we do have that connection and that bond, you can't get rid of me. It's kind of hard. I might, and I'll have a million and one questions, and we'll work from there, but that trust has to be there, and when that trust is there, now it creates a comfortability for me to share this idea, knowing and trusting that you too, just as what I am trying to do, is serve the story. That's all I'm looking for in my collaborations. I could have a strong idea, and I might be very adamant on, no, it has to be this, and it has to be this way, and here's why. But I'm not going to know that here's why unless I know for a fact that I know what I'm talking about, and it serves what the story is doing. You got to put your ego aside. And I think that's the best form of collaboration, is when the egos are left at the door, and and everybody's coming in with their own experiences, the universe that they've come from, and they are serving the story that is in front of them. And then that's the best way to make everybody wants to do the best work possible. So it's just a matter of getting out of our own ways and seeing which idea is the best to get forward.
Wow. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we go?
All those film lovers out there, just be present, be patient, and serve the story always.
And on that note, be sure to check out Nile Price and our digital October issue of Billiards Magazine on www.billiardsvmsoa.com and our Instagram page. And be sure to check out his work at www.nileprice.com. Until next time, I am your host, Vania, and remember, Virginia is not only a place for lovers, it's a sanctuary for dreamers. Bye, y'all. How'd that look to you?
Yeah, it was good. You want to do one more?
Shit! I was definitely saying like sanctuary for dreamers. That definitely takes your second. Oh well.
Maybe just do the until.